Welcome in to episode 18 of the Pinstriped Prospects Podcast. And this week, I am your host, James O'Connell. A little bit of an MLB Draft preview episode here. So we thought we might want to leave it up to the experts and Rob Pinstriped and Ricky Keeler to kind of dive into that for you guys. So alongside me, without further ado, is Ricky Keeler. Ricky, how you doing today?
Doing all right, James. Weather is hot outside. Be good for baseball. Oh, wait, we don't have any. But other than that, doing pretty good.
That's that's the depressing reality of everything right now. And Rob, how are you, man?
I'm doing well. I could use a little less humidity, but aside from that, not bad.
Yeah, not great. Not great, especially when you love to walk 18 holes when you can't do much like myself. All right, so let's get right into it. 2020 MLB Draft preview. A bit of a short draft here, obviously, given everything that's gone on. Everyone's world kind of in a whirlwind, so everything's a little bit different. So the Yankees have just 3 picks in this draft. It's a very short draft, so let's dive right into it. Ricky, I want to start with you. As far as focus for the Yankees, where should Brian Cashman and his team be, and who should they be looking at? What position? What should they be focused on for this draft?
Well, I think for Brian Cashman and David Oppenheimer, I think the key for the Yankees is going to be to try to, depends what direction their first round picks to go at pick 28. If they want to go with a college player, try to save a little bit of money in terms of the bonus pool, because their bonus pool is not high, then maybe they go with a high school player. If they take a high school player under slot, like we've heard of rumors, like we had Ralph from Prospects Live on last week, and he brought up Carson Tucker. I'd say if they get Carson Tucker under slot, it gives them more room in the third or fourth round, and maybe pay a guy a little bit more to fill up the pool. I think if you're the Yankees, they have so much talent in the lower levels of the farm system, it's not really a big draft for them. So it depends what. One thing you learn with the Yankees in terms of recent drafts, they tend to go in all different directions. So you can't pinpoint a trend compared to other teams that tend to go a certain way. So it's all going to depend when you're picking so late. Most likely, whoever's the best player on the board is what they're going to go with. There's deep college pitching, so there's definitely going to be a good arm out there late. The Yankees have been linked to a lot of shortstops, so you can see a direction there, even though they took Anthony Volpe a short last year. And there's also some good left-handed arms as well. So there's many different directions. It all depends on how the board falls in front of them.
Right, and I guess the kind of thinking with the Yankees recently is when you can never get enough pitching. They're so deep in the system pitching-wise. And they have had some, I guess, surprise picks recently. Anthony Volpe. I don't know if you expect the Yankees to go shortstop last year. Maybe it did. I'm not sure. But definitely a little different. But Rob, what do you think? Who should the Yankees be looking at? What should they be looking at? Not specifically, but just like overall, kind of where should their focus be?
I mean, to me, with a draft like this where you only have 3 picks, you are either going to get a high talent high school guy, or you're going to focus in on college guys that you know you can sign, that you know you can really rocket up that farm system. You got to remember, with the contraction coming from minor league baseball, the Yankees are not going to have the ability to have a high school guy stay in short season for 2 or 3 years like they would have when they drafted high school guys. You're going to need people that you know can move up the ranks and move up the ranks pretty quickly. And that, to me, screams college juniors. And, I honestly wouldn't draft any college seniors in a short draft like this. But I think it's going to be college all around on every pick.
So it seems to be focused more on MLB-ready talent as opposed to more developmental talent. So let's get into it as an organizational standpoint. The Yankees don't, I guess, have as many needs as most teams do. Overall, as an organization, they're very talented from top to bottom. What is their biggest need as a team? I don't. It's not pitching. I don't think. At least maybe I could be wrong. So what is the biggest need for this Yankees system here?
Well, I think there's 2 needs, if there is a need at all. One, I think, is third base, because I think if you look at the Yankees, yes, third base only draft where you tend to draft the middle infielder, and if they have to move to third, they move to third. But you have Miguel Andujar at the major league level, but really there's not that can't-miss third base guy in the system. If they want to go that direction, there's a guy, Jordan Walker. He's a high school player to Georgia who's a Duke commit that a lot of people have mocked the Yankees to. So maybe if they can get Walker to sign, he'd be a good pick there. Another one would be left-handed pitching. They took T.J. Sikkema with their competitive balance pick they got in the Sonny Gray deal last year. So left-handed pitching could be an option. There's not that many upper-tier left-handed arms. I look for a guy maybe like Jared Schuster out of Wake Forest, who is a really good guy that has gotten better as the year has gone on for them. And probably catcher. I know they drafted Josh Breaux and Anthony Segura 2 years ago, but again, there's not really that can't-miss catching prospect at the top of the system. So obviously you could take a chance. Segura and Breaux battled some injuries in the early stage of their career. So you've seen the Yankees link to guys like Austin Wells, who they've drafted before, Dylan Dingler out of Ohio State. There are good catching prospects at the bottom of the first round as well. And with Wells, we talked about last week, he's a guy that can move around the diamond, first move in a corner infield spot at first base, put him in left field. So they like Wells' versatility. So he could be an option there if the Yankees want to address the backstop spot.
I do.
Okay, go ahead, Rob.
That left-handed pitchers it's still a big need in this farm system. You mentioned Jared Schuster. I would say if Andrew Abbott is available, like he's a good guy to take with that pick. Excuse me, sorry.
Bless you.
And Jake Eder out of Vanderbilt. Excuse me. Sorry.
All right, bless you. Third time's a charm. Are we good?
Good right now. We'll see. But when it comes down to it, Yankees are still very weak on the left-handed pitchers, and college lefties will move pretty quickly.
Yeah, Abbott and Eder are two guys you could take late with the third and fourth round pick if the Yankees do decide to go with a Carson Tucker or a prep player with their first pick, because they'll be available toward hopefully their third round pick, which are around I think like 98, 99 in that area.
I do agree with your earlier point, Ricky, kind of where I remember previewing kind of the third base prospects, and we really there's nothing there. There's nothing there in the system as far as corner and field. Granted, sure, you can develop those guys. Not too difficult. You can always move someone over from shortstop, third base. It's really kind of there's ways around that, but I do think maybe if you focus up more on those corner and field spots, it might prove beneficial for a very weak system over on that side.
I agree with you, but when you look at it, the Yankees have such an abundance of middle infield depth in the minor leagues right now, especially in the low minors. Half of those guys can move to third easily, and some of them have already moved over to third and had some time over there. So I don't see it being as big as a need right now, especially when you're looking at the contraction. So if you go select a high school infielder, you're going to have to make sure he's a guy that can move pretty quickly, because you're not going to have that 3 levels of rookie leagues and 3 levels of short season next year for him to develop. So you're going to have to be lucky with what you can teach them in instructional league, that they get it, and then that they perform next year in wherever they go. And so it's real. The whole dynamic of developing minor league players is changing thanks to COVID-19 and the contraction of the minor leagues next year. And now we still don't even know what is going to happen with the minor leagues. So a lot of it could be up in the air, and they don't even know. So there's just so many question marks that, selecting a guy that may need 2 or 3 years in the short season ball may not be a good way to go in this draft.
Yep, good stuff. So kind of moving on here. Rob, I want to start with you on this one again. So the Yankees have 3 picks in this draft. Very different from ever. not even just years past, ever. This is not a normal thing. So is there a different strategy going in? Should there be a different strategy? How should they approach this?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
No, just how the Yankees, they only have 3 picks in this draft. So, is there a different strategy going in? Because it's very different from really ever.
100%. When you look at it in the past, they select some really good guys in the first, second, and third rounds, and then rounds like 4 through 6 or 4 through 7, they usually select college juniors or college seniors with little to no leverage that they give smaller bonuses to, and they use that bonus pool throughout. We're not going to have that. I honestly, in a draft like this, I don't see any college seniors going in the draft. I think they're going to end up going into the free agency, which we'll discuss later on. But when it comes down to it, the whole thing is with no minor league season this year, so you're not going to see what you're getting out of them. Short potential contraction next year, it completely changes how you're looking at the draft this year because you're not going to see anything out of these guys in actual game action. As much as I like complex ball and instructional league and all that, it is no substitute for actual playing in a game in a stadium with fans overnight and everything. That is just extremely different and is just not the same. So with that in mind, you got to make sure you have guys that you pick that can hold up to minor league baseball. And with, like I said, with contraction going on, no one knows what the hell is happening.
Yeah, I think for the Yankees, like we talked about earlier, in a short draft like this, it really just comes down to where you can find, especially with them lower in the first round, you're just going to take whoever the best player on the board is. I don't think really there's that big strategy. I mean, could Damon Oppenheimer and his staff lean toward players they've seen before, lean toward guys they've drafted before, guys like Duke right-hander Bryce Jarvis, Austin Wells, we talked about earlier, is a redraft. Tanner Burns, the right-hander from Auburn, will probably go earlier than 28, but he's an option. So maybe Oppenheimer leans that route. Do they lean toward guys they saw a little bit last year in the summer who didn't get a chance to play spring ball, but they really like their tape, and maybe they could see them would have developed into better players had they played this year due to the pandemic. They didn't get to play, obviously. So if it depends. If you take a prep player in round 1, you're going to lean toward taking the college player maybe in round 3 or 4 that can move up. Because the one thing the Yankees have done very well is maybe not with their first pick, because really they haven't drafted a lot of first rounders that moved up quickly in recent years. Maybe Clark Schmidt's the last one who has, although it's really early for a couple other guys. They've done a good job in finding like that 4th, 5th round, like that in a normal draft, that late round value that ends up being a major leaguer. We talked to a lot of former Yankees or former major leaguers that were late round picks by the Yankees in a series we did. So Damon Oppenheimer's staff do a good job at finding value. So it may not be their first round pick that draws the biggest merit down the road, but it could be their 3rd and 4th rounder this year.
And moving on here to kind of the best fits for this Yankees team. I know we've talked kind of a lot about what the idea should be, who they should be looking at, what they should be looking at. But as far as the best hits for just hitter-wise, pitcher-wise, what do you guys got? Who's the best fit for this team? Ricky, starting with you.
I think if they go hitter, to me it would be either Wells or Dingler, catcher. The reason I like Carson Tucker as a player, and a lot of people from what I read value him really high, I just am very hesitant about taking another prep shortstop back-to-back years, although Carson Tucker is Cole Tucker's younger brother. Cole's now with the Pirates, so there is that pedigree that you like. But I'm just still hesitant even of taking a Nick Lofton at a Baylor at that spot. If Ed Howard dropped, and Ed Howard's got some great tools, he's a player that I think you should take just for the value. He's a top 15 player in a lot of draft boards. I think you could take him, but I don't see him being there. In terms of pitcher, there's so many good guys at pitcher toward the bottom of this draft. You look at some pitchers like Tanner Burns, the 2 Miami pitchers, Chris McMahon and Slade Ciccone. I kind of like Ciccone. He's got a good 3-pitch mix. Clayton Beater from Texas Tech, who's got a good fastball curveball combination, one of the better curveballs in this draft. But the one guy I know, Kylie McDaniel from ESPN, who we've had on the show before, has talked about in his couple mocks. Keith Law from The Athletic referenced him. Keep an eye on Bobby Miller, the right-hander out of Louisville. He's got a really good fastball. He kind of goes under the radar in the Louisville rotation by Reed Detmers, who's going to be a pick in the top 10, top 15 at the latest. But he's around 95, 96 miles an hour. He has a good splitter changeup combination that works for him. And he's a guy that maybe can go into the bullpen if you need him down the road. So I kind of look at Bobby Miller as that maybe a Chad Green type. He's a 6'5" right-handed pitcher. He was redrafted by the Orioles a few years ago. So I tended to buy into what Kylie McDaniel's been talking about and what Baseball America's looking at. They've been looking more in the pitcher realm. MLB.com with Jim Cowles and Jonathan Mayo have looked in the hitter position player realm and have said position player is likely. But we know Baseball America has nailed their last 2 picks with Volpe and Siegler. Volpe was the guy all through the draft last year. Siegler, pretty much the same thing. There's not really one guy that's been mainly connected to the Yankees, but the name you see a lot is Bobby Miller. And maybe that is some indication here, albeit in this draft, it's tough to indicate who will be there at 28.
Rob, any idea? Best fits, pitcher, hitter? What do you got?
I tend to not do predictions for the draft because I tend to be wrong most of the time with the draft. When it comes down to it, but I think the Yankees are going to go pitcher this year.
Okay. All right. So I guess that'll move us into our predictions for the draft. I'm going to start, and in my research here, the guy that seems to have the most connections here is Bryce Jarvis out of Duke, right-handed pitcher. I'm just simply going off of these connections here. Matt Blake worked with him at Drive On in the 2018 offseason. He jumped from 88 to 95, which kind of, I don't know. I just think the Matt Blake connection, maybe that has some effect of Bryce Jarvis out of Duke to head to the Yankees. Will he be there at 28? I don't know. But that'll be my prediction. Ricky, what do you got?
Yeah, Jarvis is an intriguing name, like you mentioned, and the key, I think, with him, like you said, the familiarity, I think, is a big help for the Yankees if they want to go that redraft route. The thing is with Jarvis, you're seeing his name around the early 20s, and that's where I think there's going to be a logjam of college pitchers toward that round. I mean, a couple other guys I'll throw out there. Carmen Ledzinski from South Carolina, right-handed pitcher, is a good name. The Yankees love drafting South Carolina pitchers. Clark Schmidt in the past and Jordan Montgomery in the past. So that's a name I think you look at. One other guy I'll throw out there in terms of pitchers, keep an eye on JT Ginn, who was coming off of Tommy John surgery. Dodgers took him in their 30th pick a couple years ago. So he's a guy, maybe if Ginn slips for the late 20s, he's an option. There's so many different names at pitcher. I'll throw a couple more out there at hitter. I know one guy rising up the board is first base, because first base I think could also be a need for the Yankees. Aaron Sabato from North Carolina, who's a sophomore with a lot of pop. And Blaze Jordan, who's a prep player who also has a lot of pop. So I would keep an eye on those two guys in terms of hitting position players. Daniel Cabrera, also an LSU outfielder, a good all-around player. So keep an eye on those players. But we have a lot of different names. Our staff here has done a fantastic job breaking down players before the draft. We have, I think, going into Wednesday night, there's going to be 169 players picked. We've profiled about 30 of them. So I think we got a really good chance of nailing the Yankees pick with one of those profiles, but you can check those out. And some of the ways you can check those out is through our Dugout membership program. Here at Pinstriped Prospects, we provide exclusive minor league content to paid subscribers with our Dugout membership program. You get scouting reports, player interviews, which I believe if we can get some of these draftees, that'll be the only way you can access it. Some features in addition to our free Major League coverage. So be sure you need that membership program if you want to read some of our draft coverage as well. You could sign up for either $5.50 a month or $40 a year, and you get the promo code I Miss Baseball, because quite frankly, we all miss baseball. You can try it out for 30 days. So try us out. You probably like us. I guarantee at least give us a shot. I think you'll appreciate it. Our staff has done great work, so I want to just give a lot of credit. Guys like Josh Sabo, Devontae Davis, Alex Keelar, they've all done a fantastic job writing up these profiles, so be sure to check them out before you watch the draft on ESPN or MLB Network tomorrow night at 7, Wednesday night at 7, and Thursday night at 5 is rounds 2 through 5.
Good stuff. Good stuff, guys. And now we'll transition into the MLB proposal. MLB made a proposal to the players, 75%, courtesy of Colorado Cheer, 75% prorated salary, a 76-game season, playoff pool money, no draft pick compensation. And the season finishes September 27th. The postseason will end at the end of October. I'm sure everyone saw the immediate reaction from the players, kind of a little bit, I believe someone said that's cute, kind of like a cute offer. Didi Gregorius tweeted out, LOL. We had a lot of, I guess, negative reaction from the players, as expected. But I guess it is inching a little closer to the demands. But Ricky, what do you think here? How do you interpret this proposal?
It just feels like, James, we're delaying the inevitable. It feels like we're just waiting for Rob Manfred to throw the hammer down and say we're just going to play 50 games. It's clear there's a big divide on both sides, and I feel like the owners are asking for way more out of the players. I asked them to sign a waiver to play. Then you have the whole thing where, like, we only want to play 76 games but not prorated, and just give the players the prorated salary. I mean, if you want to defer it for future years, you could do that too. There's got to be a way for both of these sides to figure it out. I'm up on the player side more than the owner side. They've agreed to expanded playoffs because, let's be honest, The 40-game season, and we talked about it a little bit last week, is not a season. If you're a wild card team, you play 20 games max in the playoffs. You're basically playing double a postseason schedule. Now they want you to add more teams, which the MLBPA has agreed to, that they're going to add more expanded teams. You're going to have 16 playoff teams. That's a lot of playoff teams. It even makes a 40-game season even more meaningless because half the teams are getting in anyway. It just leaves that inevitable. And to me, 40 or 50 games, I don't want it to be called the World Series because it's not. You build your team for 162 games. At least with the PA proposal of 89, I can live with 89. The problem with that is the owners want it to end before October or before the third week of before like the end of October because of the second wave potentially of the virus. So I don't know where these sides are going to agree on a set number of games, and that's where I think eventually Manfred's just going to throw it down and just say 50 games, and the MLBPA will try to fight it.
I mean, geez, like a 50-game season, man. Like, talk about a legitimate season. You know, like that's not, what is that exactly? That's not baseball. 81 games, you're getting closer to respect. Yeah, 81 games, you're getting closer to respectability. You really are. That's half a season. Which again, it's not great, but like at the end of the day, how much else can you really ask for? 40 to 50 games is a joke. That's not a baseball season. That's like a little in-house tournament basically. You're gonna have teams in there that don't belong in there. It's gonna be a whole different Mets. The Mets might be the 1 seed because they start off out of the gate hot every year, and they're horrible. With all due respect,
throw the crazy scenario out there. What if a team like the Pirates went 30 and 20 and 50 games?
It's possible, man. Anyone can have a good 40 games in baseball. That's like we see win streaks like that all the time. The 2003 Oakland A's, I believe 2003, they won what, 20 in a row, 21 in a row, like things like that. That automatically puts you in. Like you can't do something like that. An 81 game season, you get a lot closer to respectability, but you cannot do 40 to 50 games. That's a joke, man. I mean, I don't know what the owners are looking for here. The players actually want to play more games, which I don't. You kind of wouldn't really think that off first thought that the players would want to play more. But I guess at the end of the day, it boils down to the money. If you give them the prorated salary, I'd imagine most people will sign up for however many games that really is. If you give them the full salary, if you're only giving 75% of the salary, they're not going to really agree to anything. Why can't someone just drop the hammer and say, "Listen, 100%. Here's your full salary, prorated salary, as we agreed." As I dropped my remote, sorry. And here's also an 81 game season. Why is that not possible? It's absolutely ridiculous.
Because they're negotiating for the sake of negotiating, and it's just a big pissing match because they're trying to get leverage for the next CBA.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's not. I don't know when this is going to end. I don't know how this is going to end, but you got to hope that we're just inching a little bit closer here to baseball.
You got to side with the players because they're the ones. Like I saw Sean Doolittle tweet, I think it was Monday night or Sunday night, I forget the day, that they're looking out for the future players, and I think that's one of the critiques, Rob, that we talked about was you got to look out for the guys because look, we're on the draft. We're talking about a draft and where it's practically been made where it's not promoted that you should try to play baseball because the path is now a lot shorter to get to the major league. So they're looking out for future players in this deal. David Price giving money to the minor leaguers through June. We talked about the Nationals last week and made an effort to give money to them to make ownership have to give them the stipend. The players are the ones looking out for the future players. I don't see the owners looking out for the future of the game. They're looking out there for right now to try to stick it to the players even more. To me, you just make a deal and you worry about it later. I don't see how hard this is. Meanwhile, they're going to be the sport that watches the NBA and NHL get the big national stage at the end of July, and where are they going to be?
100%. When it comes down to it, the players are finally stepping up and looking out for minor leaguers. Because if you looked in their proposal, they have a $5 million fund for minor leaguers, and Major League Baseball is shitting on minor leaguers. Thankfully, the public pressure put on the Oakland Athletics is forcing them to pay their minor leaguers through the month of June, but there's still no guarantees. And, when it comes down to it, minor leaguers get the short end of the stick all the time. And thankfully, the players are actually looking out for them.
Yep, it's all one big mess here, and let's just hope this gets sorted out soon. Because as we transition here, there's another side to worry about here. And shout out to my colleague, former colleague Bradford William Davis of the Daily News. He wrote an interesting piece in the Daily News the other day saying that MLB teams have not all MLB teams have contacted their local health departments, and baseball, I as I'd imagine, claimed that they have. And Bradford reached out to health departments in New York and everywhere else, and they said they were not contacted by these MLB teams. Is this a cause for concern, Ricky? Starting with you, should players be worried that maybe baseball is not really reaching out to these health departments, or really don't have a sense of idea of where they're going, or what should we think of this?
It has to be in the back of your mind, at the very least.
Yeah.
When you're seeing in the Players Association proposal, they want to have it where you can opt out if you're if you're in a family member who's high risk, and you don't lose your service time, and you don't have to worry about anything going against you, which I think is the right thing to do. I mean, it should be an option if you're at risk or you have a family member who's high risk. You don't have to play. I think that has to be on the table, and they're doing the right thing there. And that's just shocking when I saw that report that we're even worrying about that. Then you have, I think, on the other side with the issue with fans. Now you might have Texas, which might allow you to fill half the stadium. So let me get this straight. The Houston Astros would get to play home games with half their fans, and they don't get booed on the road? We talk about, once again, Houston Astros going to get whatever they want. They get more picks than the Yankees, even though they lost Garrett Cole and they did all that cheating, and now they're going to get to play with fans. And I think, to me, I get it, it's a revenue stream, but then maybe you divide it amongst the teams. Either everybody plays with half the fans or a little amount of fans, or nobody plays with fans. You have to go that route. You can't give a team, even though, yes, the Texas Rangers have a new ballpark, you can't give a team that advantage of being the only one that gets to play with fans, because we're likely playing regional schedules if we play at all.
Yeah, I mean, what kind of BS is that, man? Or, like, really? How are the first of all, let's just go back. Not to go to it, but I am going to go to it. How in the world are the Astros not going to get their boos this year? If they're allowed to have fans in their ballpark, they better be able to hear it in others. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't, for some reason, I don't know what it is, but something is just a higher power here is rooting for the Houston Astros. I don't know why. It just seems like this
Rob
whole
Manfred.
Yeah, it could be maybe Rob Manfred. I don't know, but it just everything keeps just working out in their favor. Like the whole, I know the whole COVID thing, not great, but like not great would be saying it lightly, but I mean, this whole season being canceled basically is really helping the Astros. They're not going to hear nothing from anybody. So, like, talk about getting a break. Like, it just like, imagine they had, on top of everything, the draft picks, this, that, they get to play with fans in their home ballpark and not hear from others in other ballparks. Can you imagine if that happens?
Can we talk about this perspective also? And you look at which is the right thing by the league, that you wouldn't have qualifying offers attached to free agents next year, and you wouldn't lose draft picks, which is the right thing to do. Think about how that hurts the Yankees, though, as well. We talk about how signing Garrett Cole kind of hurt the Yankees from a draft pick perspective, even though you make that deal in a heartbeat. So the Yankees would have James Paxton and Masahiro Tanaka potentially as free agents at the end of the year. You don't know.
And DJ LeMahieu.
And DJ LeMahieu. So you would at least have a shot if you gave all three a qualifying offer of getting another pick or two in the draft. You won't have that. Now, albeit it's the right decision to do, but it's another thing that kind of backfires against the Yankees here, albeit nobody's going to cry poor for the Yankees, and nor should they. I mean, it's special circumstances, but that also plays a factor in your future plans, because you could have had an extra draft pick or two.
Yeah, I mean, not great. Like it's really not great. So as far as the qualifying offers and stuff, I just actually let's just dive into kind of the free agents here a little bit with James Paxton, Masahiro Tanaka, and DJ LeMahieu. Does that no qualifying offer, like how badly does that affect the Yankees? And as far as signing, does it affect it at all? What are you thinking?
You know, I'm not 100% sure. I mean, I'm also in the camp where draft picks should not be attached to free agents at all.
Right.
So I think that's a good thing. I think that's how it should be in the next CBA. But if there's no draft picks, loss of draft picks for players that they lose, and there's no luxury tax for this year, if I was the Yankees, I'd make sure I bring everybody back. I'd make sure I bring back Paxton at least on a 1-year deal. I'd make sure I bring back Tanaka on a 1-year deal. And you know what? When it comes down to it, if there's no punishment for me making my team better or keeping my team better, because you got to remember, a lot of guys, Clark Schmidt, Debbie Garcia, etc., are losing development time in the minors. That they lost their season. Even if they're on a taxi squad, that's still not the same as pitching in a regular season. So they lost development time. And God knows what's going to happen with the Rule 5 draft, because there still hasn't been a decision on whether or not minor league baseball players are losing a eligibility year for Rule 5. And if there is no Rule 5 draft this year because there's no season, then there needs to be something that actually a give and take in the major league level. So if I were the Yankees and there's no punishment for me retaining my guys or anything, I'm not losing draft picks or anything like that, I am going to make sure I make my team better in any way possible. And I think for these guys, for these players, they know they're not going to get a big payday for 2021, because 2020, even if they do play an 80-game season, it's not the same as playing a 162-game season.
And moving on here to the Players Association offer, Joel Sherman of the New York Post tweeted, the MLBPA offer Tuesday didn't include removal of draft pick compensation tied to free agents who signed elsewhere in the 2020-21 season. Major League Baseball offered that as a perk on Monday, and the union doesn't see elimination of qualifying offer as a positive. So, Ricky, when you hear that from Joel Sherman, how do you interpret that?
Well, I think for this year specifically, I think you have to remove the qualifying offer, because you're going to need the free agents want to make money. I mean, you look at this year, the free agents are not going to make a lot of money. I mean, Buster Olney had a good example this week talking about George Springer. And the fact that the Astros waited a long time to call up George Springer, he could have been a free agent this past winter with Steven Strasburg, with Anthony Rendon, with Garrett Cole. And George Springer could have made $200 million, and rightfully so. He's a great player. Now, who knows what he's going to make this year? And I think without having the qualifying offer attached, you might have a team that's on the precipice of deciding, are we contenders or are we not? They can now make that aggressive move to being a contender and not worrying about having to lose anything to make a move to help their team. So I think that would also hurt the Yankees, in that there might be more suitors for those three guys as opposed to past years where we're a team that's not really a bona fide contender has to worry about losing a pick just to go for it. They just have to sign the player.
And of course, you're talking about
with the less money that's going to be available due to no fans and everything this year. Owners are crying poverty. Do you think that really many people will go after big name guys like Paxton and Tanaka?
It depends on which player. I mean, obviously, people are going to go after Mookie Betts. I mean, I would think you have to. I think you're stupid if you don't. But that is true. I mean, I think the borderline guy is going to get basically hosed in this. And that, I mean, Paxton and Tanaka, I think Tanaka has more value to the Yankees than he does another team, because teams can look at, well, he doesn't really throw the ball that hard and he relies on one pitch to be successful. And in Paxton's case, you go on off the 2 or 3 really good months he had in New York if they don't play a season at all. And then how do you evaluate James Paxton? I think that would also be a tough one. LeMahieu, I think, would get his somewhere, but again, he's also, is he a product? We talk about being a product of court. Is he a product of the short porch at Yankee Stadium? Albeit he's learned first base as well, so that value would be helping him in free agency too.
And Joel Sherman also tweeted here that the players' proposal that they sent over on Monday, that they propose, we've discussed before, 89-game season and full prorated salary and an expanded playoffs. So I guess kind of adding an extra team in there or two, and I'm not sure how that'll work, and I don't know how all these divisions are going to work, but I guess we will see.
I think it would just be seeds from what I was like 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7.
Right.
Like you wouldn't have that whole one game playoff either.
have we confirmed that this is going to be like all the wacky divisions where like the Yankees are and the Mets in the same division? Is that like at that point inevitable, or what are we doing with that?
I think
I don't think it's confirmed,
for
but it's
travel
regional.
reasons and safety reasons, I think that's probably the best way to go. But when it comes down to it, I don't think an 89 game season or whatever it is going to happen. It's going to be an even number. It's going to be, 88 or 90 or 76, or it's going to be an even number somewhere in there. So, which is what's when they're coming up with like these 89 game proposals, I'm like dumbfounded because of like, how are you going to divide that up? But you gotta one thing that I think is also getting lost here is just like how they put together a schedule, number one, and once they agree to a number of games, how long is it going to take for them to put together a schedule?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how they're gonna do this. I know we kind of bash Rob Manfred and whoever, but he's in a real tough spot here. I know people say he's not doing too great of a job, and most would agree. But I mean, it's a tough spot. It's uncharted territory. We're gonna have new divisions. We're gonna have new playoffs. We're gonna have a new game total in the season. It's gonna be an absolute. I'm sorry, not going to be. It is a disaster right now. But they did move down from the players moved down from 114 games to now 89, and I know 89 is a ridiculous number. But if we can get to the 82 or the 76 in that range, I think we'll be golden.
I think 114, whatever it was to start off with, was crazy to begin with. But
oh yeah,
I was always saying around 80, 82. I think that's the perfect range. And I think they all know it, that they're just negotiating for the sake of negotiating, and it's just get there already, do it, because guess what? The New York Rangers, the hockey team, have already got back in their practice facility. NBA's coming back. You're going to lose your chance to be in the national spotlight, baseball. Get the hell on it. Come on.
And by the time you come back, NFL will be training camp, college football, baby. I mean, that's a possibility. But at least the players, like we all have said, have made a concession. At least, okay, we'll come down from this. We'll come down from this. You read Mike Axis's tweet from CBS Sports yesterday, and that offer that Carl Ravitch tweeted out. Basically, it's a fancy word for we're going to keep the same offer because, as Axis tweeted, 82 games at a sliding scale, which was the first offer, is 33%. 50 games at a prorated pay, which is what they want, 33%. 76 games at 75% pay, 33%. They basically tried to reword it to make us think we look stupid, that they weren't offering them the same deal, just changing the words around.
Yeah. Just more. Just more discussions here with the prorated salaries. I don't know what, as far as the salaries go, I don't know what the players, of course, are going to want their 100%. The owners are not going to want to give the 100%. So, as far as the salaries, I don't know. Just give me 80-something games. You know what I mean? Like the 82 games, 76 games. Anything less than 70, we're kind of stretching it. We really are.
If you're that worried about it, why not just defer to next? Like, why can't you defer Garrett Cole, for example, or some of these high salary guys to next couple of years? I mean, I know they talked about deferrals and like postseason payments, but remember, we don't have a guarantee of a postseason either because the second wave is October, November, which is why the owners want to end the season by September. So if that in mind, and now I say, we're going to defer to postseason payments. I don't know if you could do that. Like you can't. So I think deferring it to future years, I think, has to be the way to go. If you're not going to prorate it, which I think they should, but if you're not, you have to defer to the next couple of years. Hey, there's a team like the Nationals that defers money to everybody because their TV situation. So there's not a precedent to do that. Teams wouldn't be hurt if they had to defer a couple of years down the road.
Yeah, agreed. And the Nationals are surely famous for doing so, playing Max Scherzer $15 million a year for the next 15 years, I think.
Hey, they got a title out of it.
They did. But
Bobby Bonilla didn't get a title for the Mets when they're still paying him.
He sure did not. So let's transition to our final thoughts here. Ricky, what do you got?
I got a couple of thoughts. I know one. Rob, I don't want to steal it from you. I guess I'll let you announce how the cool thing we're doing with the draft. So I'll let you do that. So I'll save that. But I want to give a shout. George King brought up a good story in the New York Post. We talked about TJ Sekema last year, how we all loved him in Staten Island and the way he was pitching. Because of all this, he's working as a DoorDash driver in Iowa. This is a guy that got a pretty good signing bonus in the draft, and he's working at DoorDash. So we've read all these stories about minor leaguers having to do different jobs now because they can't play. And their season is likely done, I would think. I mean, we would know by now, I think, if there is a minor league season at all. So I think that's a good story George King wrote. You got to check it out. I think the draft's going to be pretty interesting, as I've talked about. I'm looking forward also to the documentary on Sunday, The Long Lost Summer, because I remember getting into baseball largely as a kid from the home runs with McGuire and Sosa, and I followed Barry Bonds. Used to track all the home runs on I'd print the home run logs of that 73 home run season. And you just wonder, with all the damage that the owners and players have done in this process, what's going to save the sport this time? Because we're seeing home runs, but the home run's kind of been devalued. So I don't know what can save the sport in terms of, they're going to have their diehards like us that are going to go back. But that casual fan they're trying to hit, I don't really know what would bring them back.
Yeah, agreed. Totally agreed. Rob, what do you got?
Just to piggyback on Ricky, if you remember the last work stoppage, the baseball had to sell their soul to PEDs to get fans back. And with everything going on right now, God knows what's going to have to happen for fans to want to return to baseball. And I think that needs to be on everyone's mind. And, what Ricky was hinting to before is that we'll be working with Perfect Game to provide analysis of the guys the Yankees take in the 2020 MLB Draft. Perfect Game, of course, is the #1 amateur scouting bureau in the United States. They have everything on international free agents. They got everything on draftees, college, high school, etc. They're working with these guys, these players, since they were like 13 years old, and there's a lot of data there. So we're working with Perfect Game to bring that data to our readers, and hopefully you guys enjoy it.
Wow. Big news. Perfect Game, man. That's huge. That is huge. That's some big news. So, congrats to you, Rob. It's great to hear, especially with this draft coming up. Perfect Game, of course, one of the most prolific places for amateurs to play baseball. And I'll transition here into my final thought. And golf is back, man. Golf, I guess, is the first one back. Thursday, we have a tournament in Fort Worth, Texas. Star-studded field: Rory McIlroy, Brooks Koepka, John Rahm. We got them all there except Tiger. Tiger will be back in a week or two. But golf is the first one back. No spectators, I believe. But it's going to be real cool to watch some live sports. I know we got a little taste of that with the Peyton Manning and Tiger Woods and that whole the match too. But to watch some meaningful live sports, it's going to be really, really cool. And I suggest everyone tunes in on Thursday. So without further ado, we're going to wrap things up here. So for Ricky Keeler, Rob Pincer, I'm James O'Connell, and we'll see you next week.